Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another broadcast of Northwest Georgia Cryptics. I am joined tonight by Mr. Chuck Turner. Chuck's going to be my co-host. I'm Rick Weaver. Blake is not Blake's not with us, but Chuck and I are going to carry on tonight for him. Chuck, how you been doing, buddy?
Not with us. I have my volume up right there. Let me turn that down. I've been doing good, Ricky. Had my dad to the doctor today, and got to take him to have a little small uh, kidney stone surgery in the morning. We got to leave here about 5:45 and be in Athens at 7 o'clock. So
Oh man,
he's used to it.
just hey man, I'm telling you what, I've had so much sickness myself over the last 10 years that it's been unreal. Finally,
Yeah,
doctors they've got me straightened back out. I've been able to go back to work part time, working down at Advanced Auto here at Calhoun, and I enjoy being back out in the workforce.
well, that's good.
I've been on this disability jump for the last 10 years, and hey man, I'm telling you what, it kills me just trying to find something to do.
Yeah, yeah, I
All right,
understand that.
all right, buddy. Well, let's get to talking Sasquatch. What's up in the you
Yeah.
got anything new tonight?
I'll tell you something that I listened to a podcast this past week, and it got me to thinking. I know that I said whenever I saw that handprint on that scalp that it was either dew or frost that, you know, that it left its handprint in. But I listened to a podcast this last week about the stuff that the the Sasquatch can leave behind, and they have scraped some of that stuff and actually got some DNA out of it, and tested it, and of course it comes back unknown primate, and you know what happens when it comes back unknown primate. Well, we don't know what it is. It got me to thinking. I don't know that that's not what I saw on that scalp. Like I said, it's been what I was 18, so 34 years ago. You know, so that could have been actually what I saw. But anyhow, that's neither here nor there. That just got me to thinking. And I've also got. I know you heard me mention Matt Pruitt the other night.
Right.
Um, he's he's some higher up in the North American Woodacre Conservancy, and I've actually got a mutual acquaintance of mine and his trying to get me in touch with him because he is actually from Helen, and
Oh, okay.
that's really close. He lives in Nashville now, but that's, I mean, Helen would be the closest town to where I had my, the whatever that was that I had on my, that handprint and heard them talking and all that stuff at. So, and he, from my understanding, he knows them woods like the back of his hand.
Right.
So I'm trying to get with
Well,
him.
speaking
I'm
of
trying to.
that, let me see here. We talked about that the other night, and I actually I have got a guy scheduled for the show, Tyler uh, Bounds. He actually worked uh, with the guy that you're talking about on doing one of the Finding Bigfoot projects here in Georgia, and
Hmm.
he's
Yeah,
also worked.
Matt was pretty big at getting them to come to Georgia, I think.
All right. Well, this guy worked with him on the Finding Bigfoot project, and he's also worked other projects. He said with Matt across the United States, and he's agreed to come on the show on November the 3rd. So that ought to be a pretty interesting show.
Yeah, that'll be a good one.
And maybe we can find some more leads out in order to get a hold of Matt through him.
Yeah. I just would like to talk with Matt about, let him know what about my experience, and see if, if anything that he experienced was, close to there, because, from my understanding, that whole stretch of woods across the ridge there between Cleveland and Helen and Blairsville and Hiawassee, the whole mountain ridge across there, from my understanding, that's all Chattahoochee National Forest. And from my understanding, he knows that forest, really, really
Right.
well. And there's been a lot of sightings in that area over the years. And I don't know that anybody has ever really. I mean, I imagine some people have got up there and studied it, but I've been kind of debating back and forth if that's a step that I want to take, a day or two a week, and get up there and mess around in the woods up there and see if I might be able to stir something up. Or I don't want to see one. I'd
Well,
like to see evidence of one.
Chuck, I got a guy down in Cartersville uh, that actually does a lot of research up there around Helen. Uh, he's uh,
Okay.
he's got a new program. No, Lord, it's on my Northwest Georgia Cryptic site. I can't think of the name of it now. Uh, but he's been doing a lot of research up there. He and another guy that he hangs with, and they've got some pretty compelling evidence from on the off the Appalachian Trail in that area up there. He's been on the show with me, I think one time, and he and I do a lot of collaboration back and forth. But he uh, he seems to think that there's actually a I guess tribe of them up there, a
Yeah.
clan of them that's using that area. He said that he'd had a lot of what you would say. Uh, I don't think right. I don't think dead on sightings of them, but a lot of they've got a lot of evidence out of the area as far as
Mhm.
footprints. I think maybe he did say something about even having a handprint, where they've got a handprint where this thing had thrown his hand down in the mud, and they were able to cast it. But uh, I'm going to talk to him, and hey, maybe one weekend if you want to get together and go up, or one day through the week or whatever, maybe we'll go up there and do an overnight camp and gather some evidence.
Give him my information, and let me see if he'll contact me, and I'd be glad to have a conversation with him about what I saw.
Okay,
Um,
no problem.
I can't swear to, like I told you before, I've never seen one. I don't want to see one. Um, but that don't mean that I don't want to see, evidence of them. I would love to see, the, uh, where they've been. Uh, I don't know that I'm trying to.
Well, man, I'm gonna tell you something. Not meaning to cut you short, but there's one thing about it. If you ever encounter one of these things and actually have a visual sighting of one of them, it's a life altering event. It really is. Actually, I mean, we can get out here every day and we can find the sign where these creatures are at, the areas they're using in. We can hear them scream. We can hear wood knocks, whatever. But until you
Hmm.
actually physically lay eyes on these creatures for yourself, and you really know, you then you leave the camp of being a believer, and you go into, like I am, a knower. You know that these creatures exist. You know they're out there, and it changes your whole concept on things because you know we've always thought, and I always taught, by my dad, my brothers, and all as I was growing up hunting the mountains here in North Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, that man is the ultimate uh, top of the food chain out there. Well, when you see something like this in the woods for yourself, you begin to realize that hey, you're not at the top of the food chain.
Yeah, that's why I told you the other day. I'm satisfied being a believer. I don't have to be a knower. You know, I'm very comfortable where I'm at on this thing right now. If I never see one, I'm okay with that. But I mean, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna go looking for them. But if I happen to see one, so much the better.
Say hello to the
Uh,
crowd. Dollar, say hello to everybody. Say hello to
what's
everybody.
up? What's up, doggy?
That's my Sasquatch pup there. He
That's your early warning system.
Yeah, he goes on camp outs with me. We took him down to Johns Mountain here a few weeks ago on camp out, and he uh he was excellent around camp. Went to bed about 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, and we've been in bed about 15, 20 minutes, and one of my hunting partners that goes with me, Todd Gilmore. Todd was down there with me, and all of a sudden, Dollar shot up out of he was laying on the cot next to me. Well, he shoots up out from under the cover and runs toward the door. Every hair on him bristled, just raising all kind of sand. And, we were I think it was like me and Todd, and there was one other group that was camped right below us. So I don't know, if it was something that he had heard them do or whatever, because Todd and I didn't hear anything. But the dog, man, he went crazy. He went ballistic.
Yeah. I firmly believe that um, we have inferior senses when it comes to our hearing and our smell than dogs do. I mean, I think that they are more in tune with nature than we are. But I think that the more time we spend in nature, the more attuned we become to it. I mean, you sit in a deer stand long enough, you can tell even before you hear something walking that there's something coming. You know, I've
Oh,
always
most,
been able
most,
to.
most definitely. That's one thing that I tell everybody. Keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, your sense of smell. When you're out there in the woods, stay tuned into what's happening around you.
Oh yeah, and the other trick is the more I have delved into this thing over the past, I don't know, year or so, really, have really embraced what happened to me. Um, the more uncomfortable I think I be going unarmed into a deeply forested area. If I'm just at a campground or something like that, I'd be fine. But if I'm going deep, I'm going to have something with me. I don't know whether to do any good or not, but it might scare something.
Well, I don't know. I don't know in your area how the hogs are down there, but here in North Georgia, the mountain areas up here that we go to, they're covered up with hogs, and we have
Yeah.
we have we have plenty of black bear up here, which I've never actually had a physical encounter, and I've been hunting since I was 7 years old. I've never actually had a physical one-on-one encounter with a bear. I have had some close calls with hogs, I actually was up on Grassy one weekend and scouting out a place to deer hunt, and I'd got down in this big ravine, and there was a creek that run down through it, and I the little thicket. I got off down into the thicket, and this is I started down into the thicket. First thing I got to noticing was hog wallers. They was hog wallers
Hmm.
all up and down that creek, man. They had it tore all to pieces. And I eased on down about probably about 200 yards from where I first started seeing the wallers, and they was one shot out of the thicket on me. And if it hadn't been for being a pretty good sized little hickory tree being there, I shot up that hickory tree, and that hog hit that hickory tree and shook the whole tree and me in it. He hit it so hard. And I'd say the hog probably weighed maybe 200, 250 pounds. Uh,
Wow.
and, as I mentioned last week, I'm a retired taxidermist. I've done that for over 20 years and mounted a lot of hogs from this area. Actually, quite a few hogs from all around the country. And when you take a hog that's got a 6, 8 inch tusk on him, and they keep those things razor sharp. You know, uh, as I said last week, my concern is more, for the hogs than it is Sasquatch. But
Oh
as you,
yeah.
but as you say, then you take a 800 to 1,000 pound creature that stands 8 to 10 foot tall. You know, a man's crazy really if you do go into the wilderness without some
Well,
type of firearm.
you know too, Ricky. I think that most of the sidearms that folks carry, um, I think they probably just tickle these things. You know, uh, I don't. I would not feel comfortable pointing the barrel and pulling the trigger with anything less than a 45. And
Well,
I don't know. I don't know what that would do. You know, you got to think. You know, these things are. If you look at the big game in Africa, and you think about what it takes to take some of those animals down, and then you think about the weight of one of these things and how comparable they are or how much more that they probably weigh. You know, you shoot one of those kudu in Africa with a 270, and he's going to laugh at you and run for 3 days before he even thinks about laying down.
oh yeah, yeah, most
You know,
definitely.
it takes a big, fat, heavy round, to even. And I don't want to kill one no way. Like I told you before, I'd like for one to get run over by a log truck in Oregon. That would be my preferred way for us to get a type specimen. You know, but
Right.
to defend myself, I'd try. I don't know how much good it would do, but I'd try.
Well, that's something we don't. We do not. Uh, uh, by no means, go out hunting for one to kill one. Um, I do, however, I do pack heat when I'm out in the woods. I take my firearm with me, in which the one that I carry, I'm I don't know, call me old school, but I'm more comfortable with a revolver than I am with an automatic. I've had
Mhm.
automatics jam on me in a quick situation before that could have cost me my life a couple of different times, and so I carry a 38 is what I carry, uh, 6 inch barrel. Uh, I'm a dead shot with a gun. I go to the firing range down here about once twice a month, and keep my eyes, keep my hands steady and my eyes keen, about as far as being able to shoot one of them. But as far as killing one of these animals, just to be killing one to put it on a slab, I don't believe in that at all. I'm like you, if one gets killed on the highway, if one gets killed by a log truck, uh, If it falls off the Empire State Building, that's something that was meant to do. I'm just not going to go out there and go gunning for one.
I'm not against somebody killing one. I'm just not going to be that guy.
No.
I think that if we were to kill one, and have a type specimen, if somebody were to kill one and we had a type specimen, we could do more for conservation. We could do more for research. We could do more, knowing their habitats, knowing what they need to eat, knowing what they need to survive, that sort of thing. If we had a type specimen. So as far as somebody killing one, if they want to do it, that's fine with me. I'm not going to be that guy. But again, I'm not going to hold that against them either, because I think that would actually be good for the subject. Bama Bigfoot over there said that he would have to have a 45-70 at least to feel safe against one of them.
Yeah, not that I want to shoot one. Right. Yeah, like I said, I take a chance toting what I towed into the woods, but it's to me, I feel a lot safer with what I carry, uh, and with today with the prices of shells now with ammo,
Mm-hmm.
it's just feasible to me to carry a 38 rather than a 9 or a 45 or whatever.
Well, now when it comes to handguns, um, I like a 1911. I like the old 45. That's what I got used to shooting whenever I was in the Army. Never was assigned one, but I shot one every chance I got, just because you never know when you're out of bullets and your buddy's dead over there, and that's what he's carrying, and you need to grab his gun. I mean, that's a morbid way to look at it. But
Well, no,
I
not really.
wanted to be as familiar as I could with every piece of equipment I could get my hands on.
Right. Right.
And I got really proficient with a 45, with a 1911, and that's somebody asked me one time. They said, "Would you rather get shot by a 9mm or a 45?" I said, "Would you rather get hit by a Porsche running 220 or a freight train doing 45 mile an hour? It don't matter."
No, not really. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Either one's going to do damage. I like the way you put that in, Chuck. Yeah, but either one's going to do the damage. But yet, getting back to Sasquatch, we don't know what the body makeup of these creatures really are.
We can guess where the heart and lungs are, but how do we know?
That's it. And going back talking about the hogs, you know, uh, I've mounted hundreds of both wild hog and feral hog in this area over the years, and those things, I don't know if you've ever actually seen one of them skin out, but those things have about a 2 to 3 inch. Sometimes I found like 4 inch gristle, a pad that
Mm-hmm.
runs along their shoulders and
Yep.
come down into the top of their shoulders. And
Yep.
that's one of the worst things that a taxidermist has is being able to clear that gristle, being able to get that
Mm-hmm.
off the hide to where you can actually do the mount on. And
Yeah.
we don't know if a Sasquatch has a type armor like the hogs have. We don't know what.
Yeah. We don't. And again, that's why I say that I don't think that having a type specimen would be a bad thing, because we would learn more about them. The only drawback I see with that is if someone took a type specimen on Grassy Mountain where you had your experience, could you imagine the people that would flood that mountain the next weekend?
Oh yeah, man, it'd be ridiculous. It sure would. No
And
doubt about it.
that's my concern. Um, like I told you before, I don't need any more proof. I've seen enough. Not that I wouldn't like to find some myself, but as far as to be able to know that these things are out there, I don't need any more proof. I don't need any more pictures. I don't need any more sounds. I don't need any more video. I've seen enough.
Well, Chuck, the main reason that I do my research is the fact that I get calls from many different people that have been having experiences around their homes, on their
Hmm.
farms. I've got a lady over in Gimmer County right now that wants me to come over and do an investigation over on her farm. She's been having problems with something raiding her barn. It's taken a couple of her cows. Tore down fences. She said that they had a six uh, strand barbed wire fence about 5 foot high where they keep their bulls at. And she said that whatever this was, it walked through that barbed wire like it wasn't nothing.
Yeah.
So, trying to help people determine what they've actually got out there on their property, what they're dealing with, that's the reason I do the research that I do.
Giving them some knowledge as to what's going on, because you know this is another lesson that I learned in the Army. The fear of the unknown is always worse than the fear of the known. Your brain can make up anything if you don't know what it is, but if you know what it is, then you can try to make some sense to it, and maybe put up some measures to keep them away from your property if you don't want them there. Put some lights out. Uh, get you 2 or 3 dogs. You know, uh, but if you don't know what it is, you don't know what measures to take.
Right, and when it comes to lighting systems, uh, I think these things actually, buddy, I think they get used to seeing the lights on around your property at night, and I really don't know where the lighting unless it's a uh, uh, motion activated light that comes on, with motion. I don't know where a lighting system would actually deter these creatures or not.
I heard. I was listening to somebody the other day, and I'm trying to remember who it was. It may have been. I'm thinking that it was an old podcast that had John Bendernagle on it, and somebody had asked him what they could do. I might be mistaken as to who that was, but I'm thinking that's who it was. What they could do to keep, the activity down. And that was his suggestion, was put up. So I don't know. And none of us do really. We don't know. There's just anybody that does these things is a bald faced liar. You can have a lot of knowledge, but there is so much
Right.
about
You know,
things that we don't.
as I
You're
told
breaking up,
everybody,
Rick.
Chuck, oh, okay, I'm sorry, my internet, I guess. I've got AT&T, world's worst. But anyway, uh, you know, really, I don't know what to tell anybody on deterring these creatures from coming onto your property because my brother, as I told you, he's been having activity up around his house up in Murray County, and uh, I really don't know what to tell him. I mean, he's got a chain link fence around his yard, uh, and this thing has actually come down and slapped on the side of his building out there at the chain link fence, and the building's inside the chain link fence. So, you know, what do you tell people?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard, most military installations, most U.S. military installations have uh, like a 12-foot high fence around them, and they got concertina wire on top.
Mm-hmm.
And I have heard stories told of these things. They'll climb a tree next to it and then just jump off over in there. You
Right.
know, and it's a lot easier. The concertina wire always hangs to the outside, and it's to keep anybody from climbing from the outside to get up through that concertina to come inside. Well, it's not so hard to climb to the top of the fence on the inside because the concertina's hanging to the outside, and they said that these things will climb up the inside of the fence and then jump back to the tree and back down. So who knows what it would take to keep one off your property if you had one. I look at it this way, Rick. If he wants to be there, he's going to be there, and ain't nothing you going to do about it.
Exactly it. Exactly it. Like I told my brother up there standing in his backyard, the mountain he lives on, there's actually two creeks that comes right down behind his house, and pretty good sized creeks. Uh, Abundant fish. Deer are very abundant up there. They have apple trees. Deer come and eat out one of the apple trees there in his front yard. Uh, all kind of squirrels, uh, coons, possums, whatever. The woods up there is abundant. So there's an abundant food source, abundant water source. Uh, there's caves all in that area up there, abundant shelter. So, these creatures have got what they need right around there. So how are you going to keep them off your property? How are you going
Yeah,
to
I
keep them
mean,
from being? And they're curious. They want to know what's going on. It's not that they come down to raid your house to steal your food or your dog's food or whatever. They're curious.
well, that's one thing that I've said about the rock throwing and the house slapping. Is I think that it's, we get inside and we get out of their sight, their entertainment's gone. They throw a rock and it hits the side of the house, and somebody comes out screaming and hollering. Well, there's their TV back. I mean,
You're exactly right. Hang on one second, Chuck.
if y'all see me looking off to my right
Sorry
here,
about that, buddy. I was having nicotine fit here.
if y'all see me looking off to my right, I'm keeping an eye on the Braves game while we're doing this podcast.
What are they going on now?
It's 5-2. It's still 5-2 in the top of the seventh. The Braves got two out. But, I think that I think that us acting normal in the woods, doing what we do, is actually more entertainment to them. And I have no leg to stand on when somebody says, "What proof have you got of this?" I don't. It's just a theory that I've got in my head from all the stories I've heard. That when we're out there, I guess it'd be kind of like watching a fish flop around on the ground. That's not our environment. That's their environment. And they get a kick out of watching us in their environment. I think that they're fascinated with fire.
Like I say, they're very inquisitive creatures. They're very fascinated with what we do out there. But don't mistake it. If they don't want you there, they're gonna let you know.
Oh yeah, I 100% believe that.
You know.
And I've been listening to and reading a little bit more about this infrasound that people talk
Mhm.
about, and I'm slowly coming around to that theory. Um, I watched a thing the other day on a it's a military the psychological operations use it um, to it can cause nausea, it can cause anxiety, it can cause fear, depending upon what frequencies of that infrasound that they broadcast. It can just do so many different things to the human body. And I'm slowly coming around to, maybe these things do have that ability, because you hear so many people talk about that overwhelming feeling of fear, that overwhelming feeling of dread, or, suddenly becoming scared and nauseous all at the same time, you know. And when I was reading that paper that they did on that uh, psychological operations weapon that they had, basically all it is a big focused speaker. They can direct it where they want it, and it produces that infrasound. And like I said, depending upon what frequency they use, they can make it do all sorts of things to the human body.
Well, I wholeheartedly believe that Sasquatch has the capability of this. You know, they say the big cats over in Africa, they possess the infrasound. They're able to actually paralyze their prey where they can
Mhm.
readily catch them
Mhm.
by doing the infrasound. And it's the same way with Sasquatch. And you know, I'm to the belief, Chuck, that if you're in the woods and these creatures are hungry, hadn't had a meal in a few days, you're readily available, you know, honestly, I believe they will take you.
Well, that's the other thing that I've been looking into a little bit lately is that uh, David Politis, he won't say that the Sasquatch is the reason for a lot of the missing people that have went missing out of our national parks. But what he will say is that there is a huge correlation between hot spots where people go missing and hot spots where people see Sasquatch.
Most definitely, most definitely. I don't know if you've heard of the case or not, but in the 1950s, there was a young boy by the name of Dennis Martin. He was with his family up in the Great Smoky Mountains. They were out on, I believe it was an Easter uh, weekend,
Up
enjoying the outdoors.
up at Cage Cove.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I've heard about that.
The boy was 6 years old. He was playing his dad, his grandfather, uh, and I believe an uncle, I think, was there. And anyway, he and some other kids, another group came in uh, that were also named Martin, and they got to talking. Well, all the kids got together and was playing out in the field there below where the parents and all were standing. Uh, they said that the father said that he saw Dennis go up under a bush. They were all playing, I reckon, hide and go seek, and Dennis had went up under a bush. Well, he said he kept watching, and Dennis never did come out from under this bush. So they all went down there to check on him, and he was gone. Uh, about 3 miles over from where they were at, there was a family by the name of Keys. Uh, about 30 to 45 minutes after the little boy had gone missing, they reported seeing what they thought was a huge, I think they said homeless guy or something that looked like he had something green slung over its shoulder about 150 yards from them. up on a hill, but they searched the mountains over and over and over up there. They brought now the government brought the Green Beret in up there for 2 weeks or 10 days is what it was. They kept them on the ground for 10 days. Officially documented, man, that they did not, the whole time the Green Beret was there, they did not correlate with any other park officials whatsoever. Uh, they said that the Green Beret stayed in there for 10 days, helicopters and all. On the 10th day, that night, and they was only doing night operations. They're not doing day operations. They're doing night operations. The 10th night that they were there was a flatbed truck brought in, loaded down, tarped up, and brought back out of there. The Green Beret pulled out and never had any collaboration whatsoever with any other park officials or anything about what they were doing while they were in there.
If I'm not mistaken, Ricky, that's the case that actually got David Politis interested in the missing people.
Right.
I think that's the one that got him, kick-started on his, whole investigation thing that he's got going now.
Well, I know this happened in '58, and I think it was in the mid '80s or mid '90s. David actually had a interview with Dennis's dad. The first interview that Dennis's dad had given anyone since his son had went missing, and he actually gave the interview to David Politis. And David actually traveled to the man's home and done the interview with him, and that's documented. And now, as far as you said, David did not come right out and say that it was a Sasquatch that got this boy, but I've actually heard there's some tapes on YouTube where a guy from up in that area, then this dated back, he said, and back right at the time that President Roosevelt inaugurated that area as a national park, which was in the 1940s. And he claims that the government came in and hired his family to go in, members of his family to go in and eliminate what they called feral people out of that park. They were paid to go in and kill these people.
Well, there's I saw something on TV the other day. It was on, I want to say it was on Discovery, about feral people in the Appalachians. And, there's still supposedly actual feral humans living up in some of the hills and hollers. I don't know anything about that. I don't know that that some people are mistaking feral people for Sasquatch, or some people are mistaking Sasquatch for feral people.
Well, that's true.
I have no way of knowing that.
I don't know, but I know there's something going on in that area up in there.
Yeah. Every time I've ever to Cades Cove, it's funny because I love to go. I was talking about going to Cades Cove. I love to go to Cades Cove, but to me, there's always something that's a little bit off. I don't know what it is. I don't know. It just seems like every time I go there, I'll make my trip through, and then I'm like, okay, it's time to go. I don't want to hang around. I've seen what I wanted to see. Time to get out of there.
Well, Blake is actually wanting to go up and do a weekend investigation up in Cades Cove, which I told him, I'm up for it if he is. But I'm like you. I've been through there hundreds of times, and I've stopped at quite a few of the old home places through there and got out and looked around. But as far as getting out and hiking the trails and stuff up there, there's some reason, I've never really had any, uh, I've never really any strong desire to do that.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Matt Carpenter?
I've heard the name, yeah.
Matt does a lot of investigation up around in that area, and he has actually he's he's done some sort of, it's not really like gifting, but he will arrange certain things on a log and come back 3, 4 days, 2 weeks later, and the same things are still on the log, but they're in a different order than what he left them there. And this is areas where nobody would go. There's nobody has a reason to go where he does this. If you look at the Survivor Man Bigfoot episode, where Les Stroud is in the Appalachians, that's who he's with on there, is Matt Carpenter, and Matt talks about that, when he's with Les.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't know if you know the guy or not. I had him on the show a few months back. Lord, my mind ain't with it tonight. Bichette, Carter Bichette. Carter actually does works with the BFRO, takes groups out to investigate Sasquatch, and Carter.
I've heard the name.
Okay, Carter's got a couple 3 books out. Stigma, Bigfoot, the Bigfoot stigma, or something similar to that. But anyway, he was telling us that he was out in Oklahoma with a group, and I think there were 4 of them, and he said that they were down in this ravine, and he said one of the guys that had went with him, an older guy, had taken ill before they got out and started their hike down in this ravine, and the guy had to stay at camp with them. So there were actually 3 of them that went down in this ravine. Well, they got down in there and they had a bunch of stuff happen to them. They came back out. He said you could hear way he talked. They were like maybe a mile and a half off down in this big ravine, and he said he kept hearing it sounded like cars coming in and out on this gravel road that they came in on. And when they got back up to the vehicle and got talking to this guy that stayed there at the vehicle, no vehicles at all had come in and out of that area that they were in.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard him tell that story before.
He said that what really blew his mind was the next morning he went back down in there and he found a log with 4 rocks. 1 big rock and 3 small rocks placed on this log. And Carter told us, said that it's still to this day his belief that they knew how many was in the party that went in there that night. And he said this back rock was sitting back away from the 3 front rocks. So he said that he believes that these things actually know that it was him and 2 other guys in there, or 3 other guys in there, no, 2 other guys, and then the 4th guy had been left behind.
I've heard too that's that wood knocks could be a way of them counting and letting each other know, how many people, there are coming in or going out, or, again, that's one of those things that we can't prove. There's no way to prove it. But it's something very interesting to think about.
Well, I know now. I've been on investigations over in Blue Ridge, and Blake and I both have, and uh, we've actually encountered one night there was just me and him over there. We kept getting two wood knocks during the night. Two wood knocks is
Hmm.
all we got. Back over there a couple of weeks later, with I think there was five then with us, and that night we got three different sets of wood knocks, but it's all in near medical five wood knocks.
Yeah.
So you could be on to something there.
Again, that goes to back that theory up. That ain't my theory. I heard somebody else say it. Uh, you know, I wish that I wish that I did know enough to have a theory, but I don't. I'm still I'm still trying to, you know, figure things out myself. And you know, again, I'm of the opinion that if anybody tells you they got them figured out, they're lying.
That's it. I don't have these things figured out by no means. I know, you hear people all the time saying that these things mimic other creatures and they'll mimic you. Well, I've encountered that. Uh, Again, Blake and I were over on the Blue Ridge one night, and just right at dark, we started hearing this owl. Well,
Hmm.
it sounded just like an owl, all except it sounded like an 800-pound owl by
Yeah.
the throatiness and the deepness of the call. It wasn't a
Yeah.
regular owl. And this
Yeah.
thing carried on till after dark. And then we encountered one of the weirdest things. We were camped at the old Hickory Flat Cemetery there on Blue Ridge. I don't know if you know where that's at or not. You're actually 14 miles back in there off the main road. And uh, you can camp there at the old cemetery. Uh, and it's like a half mile from the cemetery down to the Appalachian Trail. Well, there's a big long lead that goes out from the cemetery and drops off, goes down into the creek, and then you cross the creek and go over onto the Appalachian Trail. Well, we were over there. I guess the second or third investigation we done over there, and there was something. We were camped right there at there's a pavilion there at the cemetery.
Hold on one sec, Rick.
Well,
What? Yeah. All right, I'm back.
okay, we were camped there at the pavilion there at the old cemetery, and on that long lead that goes off into the creek, we kept hearing this thing. I don't know what it was, but it would holler, and then one minute it would be like it sounded like maybe 100 yards right below the pavilion, and 2 or 3 minutes later it would be three-quarters of a mile to a mile over from where we were at in that short
Hmm.
of distance, and it would scream out again. And this thing done that for 2 hours, and they're just playing with us. Oh, but now we've got all that on recording, so it's
I was I was camping one night up in the mountains actually, uh, and what you said just made me think about that. Have you ever heard a turkey gobble all night long?
no, not all night long. I haven't. No.
You just made me think of that when you was talking about that owl. Because there was a night we was up there camping, and there was a turkey, and that son gun gobbled all night long. It wasn't constant. It was just every, you know, 10, 15 minutes. You'd hear a turkey gobble, and it did it all night. And I'm just wondering if that ain't, you know, if that could have been, I don't know. It sounded like a turkey to me. It didn't sound like an 800-pound turkey. It just sounded like a turkey. But again, you know, how good are these things at mimicry? We don't really know.
No, we sure don't. We sure don't. I know
I've
Blake and
heard
I
people.
encountered one, and his dad.
I've
Go
heard
ahead, Chuck.
I've heard some people talking about in in Area X, the North American Woodacre Conservancy's area that they really concentrate on. That you know they're off on the backside of, you know, they're 14 miles deep with no roads anywhere around, and they will, in the middle of the night, they'll hear car doors shut. You know, again, how good are these things at mimicry? You know, could that be one of them mimicking a car door shutting that he's heard at some point? You know, that's their theory.
I mean, it's all what these things actually do. You know, I've encountered stuff that's beyond belief. I've encountered what is referred to as the Sierra sounds. As far as the monkey chatter, to me it sounds like I've never heard anything like it. It sounds like something trying to speak, but without a pronounced syllable.
Well, that's that's what I heard up there on the Chattahoochee River that night. Was, you know, I could tell that there was two things walking, and the one that was close to me was the one that was making that racket, but the one that was furthest away, it never did vocalize. But the one that was closer, you know, he could hear it, you know, and that's exactly what it sounded like. It sounded like that monkey chatter that you hear on the Sierra sound.
Right, and that's something, you know, I believe that these creatures, you're talking about the one being closer to you doing that. I think that's his way of vocalizing back to the group or whatever, and telling them, look, you know, we got a certain number of people down here, you know, beware of coming down to this area or whatever.
Mhm. And you know, I firmly, you know, I think I told you this whenever I was first on your show. You know, I've been to 43 countries in my life, and I've heard a lot of languages. And looking back on it, what I heard that night was language. I don't know what kind of language. I don't know what it was saying, but it was definitely a sapient sentence. You know, I'm a firm believer that these things have the capability, the same capability that we do, to speak and to form syllables and to form a sentence. You know, again, it goes back to, you know, compounding one thing on another. You know, first you got to have a word, and then you got to have a phrase, and then you got to have a sentence. I don't know that they can go to the full extent of a sentence, but I do believe that they can communicate back and forth very, very accurately.
Go ahead.
Kenny Rogers.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Hey man, that's the only ringtone I can hear on my phone.
Rick, I need to be getting off of here. It looks like we've been on here about an hour.
All right, sir. Okay, everybody. We'll come to the end of another broadcast. I want to thank Chuck for being on with me tonight. I don't know what happened to Blake. I'd called him right before the show, and he never did return my call. So, but I'm hoping he'll be back on with me next week. Chuck, like I say, man, we're glad you could make it tonight. And as always, everybody, you know, if you like the programming, hit that like and subscribe button. Tell anybody you know about our broadcast, and have them check us out. Have them go on Facebook and check out our Northwest Georgia Cryptics group. If you like it, join it. You know, and if anybody's got any questions or any concerns that they'd like to get a hold of, get a hold of me. They can post it on there. I'd be glad to answer any questions I can. Chuck, thank you again, buddy, for being on with me tonight. Everybody, thank you for watching the broadcast, and those of you that will watch it in the future. You know, we're more than glad to have you. If you like our content, again, as I said, hit that like and subscribe button. Everybody, good night, and God bless. Good night, Chuck.
See you, Rick.